What's up, everybody? We have Dr. Aaron LeBauer here. He's a physical therapist, business coach, business owner. He's author of the Cash PT Blueprint, which is one of the books that's helped so many clinicians drive change in the industry by getting away from insurance-based PT and leading to better lives, not only for their patients, but for themselves. He hosts a national event for Cash PT businesses, PT BizCon Live, which further moves the needle for the revolution in the rehab industry. And he's founded a mastermind to help rehab business owners navigate business, find freedom, and become successful. And something that is wild is that he launched his practice the day he graduated PT school in 2008. Despite all the mentors, PTs, and everyone around him telling that it was a bad plan. So welcome to the Performance Rehab Revolution Virtual Summit. We are excited to have you here, and we can't wait to jump in.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's awesome to be here, and I'm honored you invited me to join the program.
Yeah. So let's just hop right in, right? So you talk to a lot of clinicians who are either considering starting up or have just started. What do you see as kind of like the final straw for a lot of people? Like, what kind of pushes them finally to leave the beaten path?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ones. There's one that was the first one that I dealt with is making a resurgence. It's I had a in-network business and I can no longer afford to like keep these contracts. That happened like 12 years ago, and then it's happening again the last few years. For people who are coming from a job, it's more of a the only way to make six figures or make more money is to be more of a managerial type of position. And whether it's in a hospital system or a private practice, they're doing a lot of work for someone else and not getting the appreciation and not getting anything out of it. And they're like, I can do this on my own and do it better. And really what most people don't want to have happen is they don't want to be micromanaged and told how to treat their patients. And they don't want insurance limiting what they can do in the treatment room.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. So for someone who's unfamiliar with Cash PT or just dipping their toes into this world, what are the tangible steps that you would give them to getting started?
Yeah. Well, there's number one, I think there's a distinction. I want to make a distinction between like in-network, out-of-network, and cash. So basically, cash-based PT is out of network. That's all it is, out of network. But people pay cash, check, credit card, and I can give them a super bill, which they can file on their own. The difference between that and being out of network is out of network. It's the same, but if someone is more out of network, I would consider that maybe they file the claim for their patients. And that's really easy to do if you're going from in network to out of network. But if you're doing what I did, just start from scratch, I was like, I didn't want to hire someone just to file claims and be this extra person to make phone calls. So those are the three things. And so I had an ADD moment. Your question was, I was getting to the point. Your question was, what was your question?
Tangible steps to
Tangible
get
steps.
someone
Okay.
started.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, great. So there's those things. So there's a couple different places. If you want to start seeing patients, let's say on the side, or you're an employee, or you just want to get started, or even a student, you need a license to touch. You need liability insurance. You need a place to treat the patients, whether it's at their home gym or in an office, or even on the side of the street. And you need a way to accept payment, and you need documentation system. And if you have those five things, you can treat patients. But what most people misunderstand is that what they get wrong is they misunderstand that there's some compliance issues that are different between cash and insurance, like Medicare and like contracts. People think it's cash. I don't need a contract. They think it's cash. I don't need to be licensed in the state that they're in. Those things aren't really true. But and the other thing that people miss is that they are charging too little. One of the really common things that I've seen people do is, well, hey, I'm making $45 an hour at the hospital. I can do $50, a session on the weekend, or 20. I haven't heard this much lately. I think people have gotten away from it, but it's more of a, hey, when I go to the gym, if someone wants me to needle them, I can put a needle, $25 a needle, and I'll just do needle them wherever they want. And that's like not really being a physical therapist. That's being a, I don't know, like someone licensed to put a needle in somebody, but you're not doing any critical thinking. And I don't think that that's right either. And you're undervaluing yourself and what you do for people. So,
Absolutely.
yep. Let me just go to the other way is if you have an in-network business, number one thing you need to do is to charge cash is make sure that you're not violating any contracts you signed and create some kind of awesome program for people or drop the insurance that's not paying enough and just start charging cash and people will come and see you. You just have to believe that you're worth it.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's interesting that doesn't get talked about a lot that you touched on is the one is like doing your due diligence of the practice acts and the compliance issues.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like when you're in PT school, there's almost this air of that cash PT is unethical and like that people are pushing people away from going that route because in school you're learning how to document for insurance. You're learning what exercises or what types of things that you should be doing in the sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I think we're all trained that healthcare should be free. I think we're trained that, we pay every month and, the general public is like, well, I pay every month. Like this should be free. I think what we do is not the best analogy, but what we do as physical therapists is more like, when you get new tires, they need to be rotated. You need to check the alignment. You need to, like a new fuel pump isn't covered by your car insurance. We're not, it's not a one-to-one analogy, but people see health insurance in a different way than they do car insurance. And so even as physical therapists, when we have that belief or we see people in an in-network clinic who are like, I'm unable to pay a $10 copay. They're like, how could you possibly charge someone $200? This person would never pay. Well, we're also not comparing apples to apples or apples and oranges because if the expectation is like, and it's different and this has nothing, I think there's less to do with the clinician and more to do with the setting, but the clinicians morph into the setting. But it's more of if a patient is unwilling to pay a $10 copay, well, they definitely don't value their time there. But the same patient is going to come to me and be like, they just had me doing exercises I could do on my own at home. I need something different and better. And they'll happily pay 20 times as much or 10 times as much because they're getting something that they want versus being like treated the same as everyone else. And if you don't have enough time to talk to people, we can't find out what they really want. And no one would ever pay $200 a session for physical therapy when they can get physical therapy down the street for a copay of 50 or $75. So that's why I say like you're building out a business, whether it's a cash business or not, if you have a conversation with patients or the customer, you figure out what do they want, you sell them the result they want, not what you do really well. And then if you can sell them what they want, enroll in that kind of program, they'll pay. And the other thing I have to say about the whole like cash thing is if you believe that physical therapy is what the person in front of you needs, then it's your ethical obligation to learn how to sell. Because if they don't work with you, they're going to go down the street and they're going to get, they're going to go to CVS and get some K-tape and put it on their back. They're going to get some Tiger Balm. They're going to go get surgery. Maybe they can die from an infection on the surgery table or, from some other complication. And what they really should have done is come to PT first. And if we can't get people to come to PT first, it's because we suck at sales. And as a profession, we do. So we need to improve that.
Absolutely. That's like the two biggest words that come to mind when people think of sales is yuck and pushy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not what it is. People think of like used car salesmen.
Yep.
And maybe sorry for the used car salesman.
No, dude, I had a used car salesman hold on to my keys and not give them back one day when I was going in to look at a car. I wasn't even there to buy it. He was like, are you going to trade in? I was like, sure. He's like, let me see your keys, gave me a value, and then he wouldn't give me the keys back.
Yeah, right. So that's shady shit. But really, it's just going through a conversation of digging deeper. Like nobody's coming to see you because they have knee pain, right? Like coming to see you because you've got to get those layers deeper. Oh, I have knee pain. It's not just being like Olaf. Yeah, but why is that important to you? Having a conversation where you get to those levels, but like how's that affecting you? How long have you been having knee pain for? Oh, like 3 months. Okay, well, why why now? Why not 3 months ago? Like, oh, well,
Right.
now I can't run. Okay, well,
Mhm.
what makes running important to you? Well, I want to lose 15 pounds. So like, all right, well, what makes that important to you? Real conversation, because I want to feel sexy and leave my husband, and I need to
Yep.
get to that point. It's like, okay, that's the problem we can help you with, and the knee pain getting better is a side
Right.
effect.
Right. And we're just gonna have to refer you to the divorce lawyer.
Yeah. We can help you with your exercise and feeling sexy and doing whatever, and then send you wherever you need to go for the rest of that. But
Right.
we can
But
help you
that's
with
it. That's
the
it's like the
emotional
seven.
root.
Yeah, it's the 7 layers of why. You got to get to the real reason that people want to do that. They don't want range of motion and they don't want strength. They don't want, you know, they want to be able to do something that is keeping them from not doing. The interesting thing about that is I'll start asking people these questions. They're like, why are you, I don't understand why you're asking me these questions. I just want physical therapy. And I'm like, well, I need to know how to help, but they're so conditioned in other medical practices to have to wait for, you know, hours, and get there. And the first questions are name, date of birth, and what doctor are you here for? And they're not asked questions about themselves. They're not asked questions like, introduced by name. People don't like say, hey, my name is Mary. I'm your CNA. What's your name? I'm like, my name's Aaron. They don't ask those questions. They're like, Mr. LeBauer. I'm like, okay, it's or they'll call me dad when I'm there with my kids. I'm like, just introduce yourself by name. There's like these little simple things that if we did that, people would really feel that they would know that we cared, and then instead of feeling like we're just trying to rush them through a process.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I wanted to touch on about something you said earlier,
Mhm.
the charging for cash thing, it's
Yeah.
like Ferrari doesn't feel bad that they price their cars where people can't buy a Ferrari.
Mm-mm.
You're not excluding anybody from healthcare, right?
Right.
It's not like because they can't work with you, they can't get healthcare.
Right.
Like you can still go to an in-network clinic. It's their choice. People pay for what they value. There's
Yeah.
people out there spending, hundreds of dollars every weekend on the club that say they can't afford PT, but they're rocking a $400 pair of shoes at the same
Mhm.
time.
Oh
So
yeah.
really, it depends on what is it that this person values, and not everybody's going to value
Right.
it.
Right. And there's a program for everyone. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, especially if you read comments on some of my ads, is that from other providers, is that PT, like cash-based PT, has to be one-on-one. It doesn't have to be one-on-one. There's lots of different models, especially for people that don't have like disposable income. But there's this disposable income people that don't value it because they've had terrible experiences and they roll up in the BMW and they're just mad, or Mercedes, and mad that I charged them a late fee when they, no showed and canceled on me twice. I've had that happen. I charged him the late fee and he became a great client. Because
Yeah,
he saw that I valued his time. And then we've got people that are, I had a guy who, failed the NFL combine because his squat was terrible or something like this. So he came to work with us and he would pay us every time he got a paycheck, he'd pay us $75 and we put him on like a 16-week payment plan. I've got other people who are farmers and come up and they'll pay in cash. Or plumbers will pay. It was great. I love the plumbers. They pay in cash, but they're not, like top 1% people paying this. We have school teachers in North Carolina is like 35th for, teacher pay. And we have school teachers come and pay to be with us because they value what we do. And then there is there's some people without any disposable income, but if they know that we're the right place, they'll do whatever they can to be here. And we have lots of different programs and options. And that whole thing around one-to-one is, well, if I've got a big area where people actually don't have disposable income versus it's a condition and not just an objection, I can create a one-to-many program and make more per hour. Yeah, I can charge, if I have 6 people, pay me $50 for a semi-private session, whether it's yoga, Pilates, training, something else, mobility, that's $300 for that hour. But they're paying 50, I'm getting 300, and that's like a win-win, and that's more accessible. And there's lots of different creative ways we can do it. But people just make a lot of assumptions, which, as you know, when you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
Something like that. Right.
Going down that that rabbit hole of like making money in your mastermind, like what's the biggest difference you see between people that are making, you know, in that 10K a month range versus people that are making, you know, 40, $50,000 a month? Like what
Yeah.
milestones, like what are the differences that you see like in the businessman or the
Mhm.
business? Maybe
Yeah,
specific?
there's a couple of them. One, it's there's time in the game. Like eh, I can't give you like it, you know, while we can collapse time, you just have to have time in the game to make money. Some people come in and they're expecting to do it right away, but you know, it's, you know, but to me, it took me 15 years to do like 15K a month, and I've got people doing 20K months in like 7, 8 months now, which is dope. But then, okay, what's the difference? The real difference isn't where you live, location. It's even whether you like being in front of people or not. It's how willing are you to hear the word no? How willing are you to make decisions fast without thinking about it? And how willing are you to ask for help when you need it, and then taking action? And so it's all about getting in front of the most people, whether it's online or in person. In person is 10x impact of online. And are you willing to get in front of people, share what you're doing, and not be worried about what other people think? And when you can do those things and you're confident in your abilities, those people grow quickly. The people that struggle aren't people that are bad therapists. They're just people that, you know, haven't had enough time in the game to, you know, whether it's business or even just getting in front of public speaking, and they're always hesitant to do the next thing. But it's more of a game of how many no's can I get versus how many yeses. And we just have to constantly just get out in front of more people. And that helps you grow quickly. And then there's belief, and then pricing. If you're underpriced, you'll never make 20K a month. You might make enough to support yourself, but to grow your business to multiple therapists, it's gonna be very difficult because you won't be able to pay them well. And then so that's pricing. So you need to be charging decently high prices. And then what did I say the other one was? There was the pricing, and then belief. Like you just got to believe that what you're doing is, you know, the right thing for everybody. And if you doubt yourself, you won't take the action and do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there a place in that journey that you see people typically either get stuck or plateau for a while before their trajectory takes off more?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the stuck part, I think the first stuck part is just getting started. Getting started, or as you've started, you know, you get, you know, there's just getting started, taking the first step. And then the next one is, okay, I've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So the people that actually do the best are all in, you know, they've burned the ships and they have no other choice. But if you're working like a part-time job, sometimes, you know, for security, the part-time job gets in the way of doing more of the things to grow the business. So that's a barrier. And then the next one is sometimes around pricing. So, but okay, that's not really, you know, that's more of a belief. Once we move you from 150 to 187 to 225, income grows without necessarily you know, patient volume going down. I mean, I've got people, you know, charging 250, 300 an hour, and, you know, their businesses are full, and the people that are charging less, their businesses are not as full. And part of it's like this belief. But then the next big bottleneck is you're getting to, you know, 25, 30 patients a week, or 30, 40K months. 40K months is on the high side for one person, somewhere between 25 and 35K a month, and you need to hire. And right now, hiring is a bottleneck. And that's not always a bottleneck of the owner. It can be. I've seen it where people want to hire the perfect person that's just like them, and they can't find that person. But I do think new grads or recent grads are the best people to hire to kind of buy into your practice, mold in, and give them the mentorship and the time that they're not going to get somewhere else. But there's more jobs than there are PTs, and people as a, you know, I don't know if it's y'all's generation, but I've had 3 people move to Greensboro to work for me, and it's not just because I have red hair. It's because of the opportunity. But people are like, well, I would come to your thing, or I would work for you if you had a job in my town. It's like they're not willing to move to another town for like this amazing job, or they think that a job is so amazing it's too good to be true. And so, you know, I think all PT practices are having a hard time hiring, but I've seen a lot of people get in this bottleneck of growth where they just can't find someone who to hire. And so then we have to look at, okay, Max, instead of just hiring to, offload people and buy time back, what are the other ways we do to maximize your time and revenue until we find this right person, and we work on those things. But that's that bottleneck has come up in the last 2 years for
Yeah.
sure.
I think another piece of that too, especially for people that are hiring for the first time, is they also have to start acquiring these other skills like leadership and how
Mm-hmm.
to run meetings and bring up a team and onboard people. And
Right.
so maybe their first hire doesn't work out how they planned because they weren't very good at leadership. And so then they go through that whole process again. And like you said before, a lot of it is just the time component and being in the
Mm-hmm.
game.
Right. Right. So there's like a time being in the game thing, but it shouldn't take 15 years either. I think that, like when I was starting, no one wanted to help me, like I did find I'm trying to think, like there was a APTA mentor through the private practice section, and he was 30 minutes away. And then we chatted on email, and then he's like, it'd be a conflict of interest for me to help you. And I was like, this is weird because I'm opening up a cash practice in a different town and he's in network. And I was just like, okay, this is not cool. So I had to go outside of our industry to find help. And I had to go and then adapt everything. And it took a long time. But I think time in the game is like, you just got to build reps on marketing and sales, and not just treating patients, but it's more about like, how do we, build momentum? There is like the bottleneck of going back to the bottleneck is like, I'm full, I can't market. And then, okay, now I get everyone better. And now what do I do to get more patients? I got to go market. And it's like this little rev limiter piece that happens. And it's not a bad place to be, but it's something that we can prevent with some automated marketing strategies that we start early on. But I think the main thing is don't compare yourself to someone else. Just put in the reps, and the more reps you get, the better you are and the more efficient you are.
What do you think is the lowest that anybody should be charging when they open? Assuming it's a one-on-one service, like just a
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Undervalue themselves and starting off at like $50 an hour. And what you didn't even say what's the lowest, but like on average, what are you seeing people charging? Just to give anybody watching like a frame of reference.
Yeah, I think the lowest you should be charging is 150 for an hour. We do 45-minute sessions, but it's still one person an hour. I've got 15 minutes in between. I've seen some people are doing like, I think some in-network businesses are doing like, 75 or 100 for a half hour. And I think that's probably on the lower side, but you got high volume, you don't need to go super high. So one of my clients, Alan, they'll do, if you do 18 cash patients in a day, $100 every 30 minutes, that's $1,800 a day. That's pretty dope, and that's one of his clinicians is doing that out of 7. So, but if you're starting one-on-one, I think I started at $95 because I was doing 85 as a massage therapist and no one believed me. It's like, well, if I'm Dr. LeBauer, I can charge $10 more an hour. And I went to like 110, 127, 135, 147. I just did these little increases and none of them mattered. And then I went from 147 to 250. I think that one of our clients, Jeff and Jerry, they were doing like 150. I was like, okay, great. Like any lower than 150, you're really doing yourself a disservice, but 150 isn't really enough. We got him into a plan where it was, here's how you sell packages and programs. And it was 187 a visit. And I was like, hey, sell 12 of these. And now they're selling at 225 a visit. And I think that depending on how you value your time, Sarah Martinez is another one of my clients who, as she was doing like 25 patients a week, she's like, should I raise my rates? And I was like, well, when you're not doing, this is really easy for someone who's a mom, or a parent. It's like, hey, when you're not with your patients, where are you with your kids? Right. Okay. So how much time do you value with your kids? Okay. So it's really easy. Once we start having that conversation, okay, great. Now she's charging 300 a visit. She's got 30 people on the schedule and she's one of those people that needs to hire, but hasn't found anyone, to fit. And so that's one of the things we're working on. But if you look at your time is valuable, but also the result in 10 visits for $3,000, what result am I getting someone? I feel strong and confident, like a good role model for my kids. Pelvic PT is really easy. What would you pay to resolve the issue that you're having that's keeping you from being intimate with your partner? I mean, is $3,000 too much? No, especially when this problem's been around for 10 years or more and everyone's told you it's all in your head. I mean, we're not getting simple, like, I did an arthroscopic surgery. I need you to put the patient on the bike, 10 times a week or whatever. Like, those aren't the patients that we're getting. People are being underserved, and some people just do need to get off the couch and they'll get better. Other people need more time to figure out where the root cause of the problem is. And then if we can solve that for you, then people will pay for what they value. And if they don't value what we're doing, then they're not our customer at this point.
Have you found the conversations that you're having with the business owners about the life that they want to be enough to overcome maybe the money mindset issues that they have with charging that much?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have this, all of our mastermind members go through this like course I created as like ethical influence course. And I think there's 4 or 5 videos in there, and 3 or 4 of them are me really just convincing you that you're worth more than what you think. And I don't even like to use the word convince, because we don't convince in sales. Is like, I have to show and teach and ask the right questions. But it's the mindset. But once we unlock that, then, pretty much anything's possible. But then there are limits to that too. Like, even for me, I'm like, I'm not the same person that is that, but if I put myself in the right room with the right people, I can see that they're just like me and I can have what they have. So that's the other value of mindset is success leaves clues. And if you're around the right people, you'll be even more successful. But if you stay around the people in your life, friends, professors, teachers, family members who, well, maybe their intentions are good in trying to protect you, they would never do it themselves. So they can't see it as a possibility for you. They'll kind of keep you back, hold you back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like taking, financial advice from a homeless guy or nutrition advice from a morbidly obese human being.
Right.
Like, if they're not where you want to be, if they haven't gone and done the thing that you want to do, you have to really assess where that advice is coming from. You can't really speak to it because they haven't done the thing. They're going to give you the viewpoint that they have, which is the life that they've lived, which is not where you're going. So it really invalidates it, right? Yeah. And at least in our industry, right, like physical therapists, I feel like tend to be fairly risk averse, right? As humans, physical therapy is typically seen as like a safe job with at least a stable income, even though it costs a shit ton to get into the field.
Right.
And then from there, that just, I think, furthers their risk averseness of like, oh, well, I have to work for somebody because I have to pay off my student loans, even though you can pay off your student loans exponentially faster if you actually get paid what you're worth and charge some good money.
I think it's like the sunk cost fallacy. It's like, I've already put in so much time and effort here. Whether that's, I've put into insurance or in school. I spoke with someone who's like, I'll chat with people on Instagram sometimes. And like, I want to start a cash practice. Like, when you want to start? Oh, like 2 years when I finish this like job doing loan forgiveness. But they've already told me how shitty that job was. And I'm like, well, what are you making now? And they're like X. And I'm like, well, if you could start a practice and do this, do you think you'd pay off your loans faster? I mean, I know the answer is yes, but they're like, no, well, I've got only 2 more of the 7 years. But if I quit now, so quitting now would invalidate the whole 5 years that they just spent putting into that. But that's what gets us into trouble, is that we're just going to stick with something that isn't serving us. But we'll stick it, sometimes we'll stick it out because, I don't know, we've already put in so much time, but they could have a much better like outcome sooner. But this whole thing around, I have to pay off my student loans fast. I think that's not for Aaron, for sure. I can tell you what I did is I got out and I got on the income-based, I think I couldn't get on the income-based repayment because I owned a home, and owning a home and a car, made it so it was expensive. So I got on this graduated payment. So I just wanted to pay the least amount possible. And I paid super, like, $150 a month and $300 a month and whatever. But I never got to paying more than $500 a month, and I had 60,000 in loans. So it's not what people have today. But by the time I got 8 years in, I had enough money to start paying it down. And before it got super crazy and out of hand. But it doesn't have to be all paid off right away. There's like lots of different strategies, and even working solo in a cash practice, doing $150 an hour, you can bring home, $15,000 to $20,000 a month, which is a lot more than most people are bringing home in a job.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is people are just, it's the fear of leaving the stability and going into the uncertainty because maybe they don't even trust themselves that they can do all the actions and pull all the triggers, even though the data is showing them like, look, you can make this much money. It's just the fear of taking that leap and actually doing it. And
Right.
I mean, you look at anybody doing anything like, oh, my diet will start on Monday, or like it's the short-term gratification of staying where you are because it's comfortable versus doing the thing that could help you grow, but it's hard. Like there's so much internal resistance to growing and developing as a human. And we all know business ownership makes you grow exponentially faster.
Yeah. I think the question I ask people is, well, what's the worst that could happen if you try? You go back and get another job as a PT making $80,000 a year, maybe 100, if you do it the right way and you get one PRN doing something. I mean, that's the worst possible case right now. And, that's not a bad option. If business ownership doesn't work out, I mean, there's lots of jobs. So it's not like I leave this job and I'm never going to get another one like it. But that's, I think, the fear that a lot of people have. Maybe they haven't changed jobs, or they have something that's good enough and they're willing to settle for good enough, but it's not doing what they want. And you have to take risks to get what you want.
Yeah.
I think that's human psychology in general, right? Like people stay in relationships that aren't great just because this is what I know, right? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, but except for it's not. And something you said earlier was, the people that are really successful are the ones that they don't overthink it. Like that's one thing that business is really good at doing, is helping you. If you continue to progress as a human and progress through business, you get better and better at making decisions with less and less information.
Right.
Like you'll never have all of the information. Like you will never know how to run a cash practice until you run a cash practice.
Right.
And even then, it's a continual learning experience as you're going along. Like you can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, you can do all the research, you can take courses, but until you do the thing, you're always going to have an air of like, oh, I don't know all the answers. Yeah, of course you know all the answers. That's the point.
Right. I think as a profession, we're too smart for our own good. When it comes to business, we're too analytical. But remember, we're not the smartest because the smartest people got into med school. Right.
Yeah.
But we have something to prove. And if I don't have all the information, I can't do the thing. But I think it's information only gets you so far. I think it's the insights and implementation that really are what get us paid, and people don't value that as much as the information, because you paid $200,000 for the information for 3 years. Well, I got it. If I'm, information, I got to have all the information, and then I got to think about it, and I got to consider and analyze. But those behaviors don't move business forward fast. They keep you stalled and stuck.
Yeah. So looking into kind of talking more into strategies of someone who owns a business, there's a lot of places where people leave the ecosystem and then that drives having to go get more leads. So what kind of strategies do you recommend that people use when they're trying to build continuity and keep people around in a cash PT setting?
Yeah, I think that I think the one thing that PTs miss, that I don't, because I started as a massage therapist and other people don't, but it's how do I get people out in the shortest amount of time with the minimum amount of not work of result? Because really that's what we're trained in insurance is like, do they have full range of motion? Yes. Okay, great. We're not paying. You're done. When I look at someone, I mean, from the other end, I came from massage therapy and it was like, okay, cool. This feels good. Are you someone who would rather come once a week or once a month? And the person goes, I'd love to come every week. You're like, sweet, Tuesdays at 3s are open. You want to book in for, it's like, we were trained to, like, when they're done, it's like, when are we booking the next appointment? When are we booking the next appointment? And, I mean, I'll see people for 20, 30. I mean, I have 4 or 5 patients. I mean, I've been doing PT for 15 years, but I've got 4 or 5 patients I've seen over 100 visits. They've always got something. I'm not doing it when they don't need it. They've got something they want to work on. Even if it's just come and feel good and relax and get some body work.
Yeah.
So in between those two things, like, but I also want people to be independent. And my job as a physical therapist is to give people the tools to be independent, to empower them so they don't need to rely on me. And at the same time, some people just have things going on where, they need more consistent help, or they're pushing their body to the limit and they're always on the edge of, I don't like the word breakdown as much, but they're always on the edge of not being able to perform at their like optimal. And they need someone else's eyes, hands, and ears to do that. So what I recommend is looking at that person in front of you and treating them like you would your brother, sister, or partner, because you're going to treat them no matter what, as long as they need it. So like, for instance, like my dad, he's 89. My God, he made it like recently. It's like, wow. But the man needs, if he wanted to, see, he wants different things than I do. He values different things, but I think he should be coming in, 2 or 3 times a week. His back sometimes hurts, his leg hurts. He needs work on his strength and balance. That's what I would recommend. So for him, I'm going to recommend, you got a back issue. Let's get you in once a week to do that. And then we need to keep you in once a week to work on these other things. But at the same time, it has to be what he wants. So when the patient comes in, we have to build a big gap. Like, okay, you've got this problem. Okay, if we got you back to where you were before, okay, great. But would you like to feel better than that? Would you like to be able to do more? Okay, great. Now I can build a bigger gap for results, performance, how people feel in their body, what they're able to do. Okay, you want to, okay, we can get you out of knee pain or shoulder issue, recovered from this injury. Okay, do you want to hit a PR again? Okay, great. You want to squat or deadlift double your body weight? Okay, we know that's going to take 2 or 3 years, even under ideal circumstances. So let's build a 3-year picture. I don't need to see the person weekly for 3 years. But I need to build that so that once we're done with like the plan of care, I'm already pre-framing our, performance program or wellness program or something, beyond, so that when we get to visit number 5 out of 8, I'm like, hey, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. The next 3 visits, we're going to work on this. And then I want to follow up with you monthly. And my recommendation is we get you into our Wellness Warrior program, and we'll do a monthly visit where we'll check in on your program, update it, do some body work, hands-on stuff, and keep you feeling awesome and improving. And they go, yes. I think to me, that's it, versus like rush you out with just like fixing your neck. Because if you come in with a neck issue and I'm working on you, I know that there's a shoulder issue or a hip issue. People go, oh my God, like my sciatica has been bothering me. And I'm like, we can work on that, right? Like, to me, I'm touching the whole body the whole time, no matter where we're working. But some of the people I've worked with, new grads, mentors, people I've worked with who've never like done whole body sessions, they're only focused on the region or the area. But a patient comes in to see me and they've got back pain. I know I could spend 20 visits working on a bunch of other stuff, because I can see when they walk in all the problems that they have. They just have to know that I can help them there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's due diligence in offering for people to come in for longer, especially when they have these other issues. It's so abrupt when their initial plan of care ends and there's more things that they can work on. And because in their head, that's the end. They don't know.
Right.
So it's setting up that road for success to continue working on all the other
And
things.
asking them about what else is going on, right?
Yeah.
Like people come in for shoulder pain all the time, and then they're like, "Oh, they casually drop like, oh, my sciatica's flaring up," and you're like, "What the fuck did you tell me about your sciatica?" Like, we're not like, we can help with that. We're not bound by insurance. We can do whatever we want. Like, so good. Let's check that out. And like, oh, I also have this hip thing. Like, you should probably just keep coming, honestly. So we can work on all this stuff, so you can feel good when you're 80, when you're 90. You're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
You know, if you ask physical therapists, right, who can benefit from PT, they say, oh, everybody. But then when it's time to put their money where their
Mhm.
mouth is, they're like, oh, well, we're at the end of our plan. Like, I can't help. It's unethical
Yeah.
for a reason. Like, no, it's not. It's not. What's unethical is somebody wanting your help and you telling them, no, I'm not going to give it to you.
Right.
You're the
Right.
expert in that realm, you know?
I think what happens is we're judging other people's wallets for them, or we're judging what other people value for them, and we need to be okay with them letting them have that control. But also, looking at the big picture is, I'm not bound by insurance. I'm just bound by what I can do for the person and what they want. And if the person doesn't want it, that's cool. But I need to be able to, offer it. I mean, I think that physical therapy is more than just getting people back from surgery, is preventing it and keeping them, feeling great. Like I should not be like always, hunting down like injuries and problems. I should be giving people a program and tools at home to use so they avoid the issues. But the only way to do that is to work with someone over a longer duration.
I definitely made that mistake of judging other people's wallets early on. There's actually one very specific, I was combining the word particular and specific
Yep.
incident that I'm thinking of where somebody I knew from the gym was like, hey, I just want to come in and like get some stuff checked out. I'm like, oh, is anything bothering you? He was like, nope, just want to get checked out. I was like, it's kind of expensive if there's nothing bothering you. It's like $200 an hour. And the guy got offended. He was
Yeah.
like, dude, I spend $300 a pair. I spend $300 a week on a pair of shoes. Right? He's like, I don't care. And he was literally offended that I said that. And I was like, all right, that's a big
Yeah.
lesson learned. Sorry about that. Yeah, sure. Come on in. I'll check you out.
Right. Because he obviously values like someone else's opinion, and and it's like a different level of what he wants, and versus he's not looking for traditional PT. It's like that person doesn't know what I know. Doesn't know enough to help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess let's dig in real quick on your thoughts of building a job, like self-employment versus just like building a business, a lifestyle
Mhm.
business versus maybe like a true business.
Yeah. I think so like there's a couple different stages of business. This is Rich Dad, I think it's in Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and he does the second book is Cash Flow Quadrant, where it's like you're employed, you have a like you're an employee, you're self-employed, you own a business, or an investor. And we could draw it out, but the idea is that you can have a job and you go in and you're responsible from 8 to 5. And maybe as a PT, your responsibilities on the week. This is why people get burnt out. They're like, I clock out at 5, but you're telling me I have to do my documentation on the weekend and I get paid for it, right? So you go and you start a cash practice and you see patients, you do all the work, and you're successful, but you want to go on vacation and you have to take a pay cut. And this is where, I struggled. I was like, all right, I want to be able to go to like the PPS annual meeting, but none of the program is actually for me. It's not going to help me grow my business. I have to take 3-4 days off of work. I miss 3 or 4 days worth of income from patients, and they're always doing it at the nicest hotel at the Broadmoor. It's $300 a night, and I'm like, okay, I can't justify going. I mean, I would go to the beach for the week and not making income either. So when you have a job, you own a job. Like that's not really a business. A job is where you're trading time for money. When you work, you make money. When you don't work, you don't make money. There are a couple nuances on the way to business owner, but a business owner is where you really stop trading time for money, but you can have a not trading time for money job too. But you're leveraging other people and systems to generate revenue for you and other people, help even more people than you can yourself. And it's tough because you have to hire other people to really move into that phase. And there's a lot of other little nuances, but it's also an attitude. But once you can go on vacation without taking a pay cut, you own a more of a business. And then there's the last quadrant is becoming an investor. And I think, you can invest money all along, and you can go from employee to investor, owning a business, owning a job to investor, but it goes like employee, job, business owner, investor. Investors where you're generating income and revenue through investments, and the investments grow the investments. versus the salary growing the investments. And that's a big distinguishing factor in that quadrant. But I think the relevant to our conversation is that people want to get out of a shitty job. And so they just go build one for themselves, which is great. But what happens when you want to retire, or, you've been in the field for 25 years and now, you can't go, change jobs and make what you're worth until you can go start your own business. But 5-10 years down the road, when you want to retire, what happens to all that work you put in? Is anyone going to really buy it if it's just built around Aaron LeBauer? No, not really. It's not as valuable as if I build a business that generates leads and sales when I'm not in it. And like my clinic across the street, like I've spent more time in it since the pandemic, but I meet with Chris twice a week, and he runs the business, and I've set up all the systems. And the more I put into it, the more it grows. But I'm trying to like mentor him and nurture it so that the more he puts into it, the more it grows. And that's kind of one of the ideas around that is I've got a business. I've actually got two of them. My coaching business is a little bit less of a business than, it's a little bit more of a job, but not quite. Being online, that's where you've got this mix of, I'm not trading time for money, but it still relies on me. So the more I can pull myself out, the more independent the business becomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, is there any other topics that you feel like would tie everything together when somebody is either in the beginning or they're in the weeds of all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number one thing is really just recognizing that owning a business isn't for everyone.
That's true.
And if you're the kind of person who's like, I don't want to own a business, great. Like, it's not for most people. It really isn't. And I think a lot of people want it, and they get into it and realize it's not for them. It's not easy. It's actually really hard. And, it's not just about solving the one problem. It's a daily like practice of solving problems, your problems, other people's problems you didn't want to solve today. If there's one thing I've learned in the last year is I'll show up to work and be like, shit, this wasn't the problem I wanted to solve today. I wanted to do something fun.
It's true.
It's happened too many times. And, but in business, you have to kind of be in love with the journey, not with the result. Because if you're in love with the result, it won't come out as authentic. I didn't really get into either of these two because I was like, oh, that's a way to make money. It was more out of necessity or realizing that no one's going to hire me to treat the way I wanted to treat. I don't want anyone micromanaging me, and I can already make more money as a massage therapist. So why get a job at the hospital? With the coaching business, people were asking me for help, and I was like, well, I keep telling people the same, multiple. So let me start a blog. Okay. Let me start a course in, how do I need to help people? It's what they were asking for. So, if you're like realize, okay, business isn't for me, but I want some of that freedom and lifestyle, then maybe that's the opportunity to go work with someone else as an intrapreneur, where you're not taking all the risk, but you have some risk and you get bigger reward the more you work, and maybe you fill a role for them that they can't, or you just go like, great, I'm going to be an employee and I'm going to do this because I love it, and just clock in, clock out, and do other things. And it just is, as long as you recognize like where your strengths are and what your goals are, and you don't lie to yourself or others about what they are, then this is all going to work out. PT is not the easiest field right now. It's an easy field to get a job in, but it's not an easy field to feel satisfaction in, because pay isn't commensurate with the amount of effort that you put in. So if you want to make more money, if you want to make a lot of money, go into real estate or finance. If you want to work with people in a meaningful way, PT is a great way to do that. And I think leveling up your skills is always great, but how can you not just level up your skills, but get your skills and ideas in front of more people? And then the more we focus on helping our patients, the more successful we'll become.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Aaron, thanks for being here, man. You've been one of the pioneers, or the early pioneers in the cash rehab game. You've been paving the way for active adults and athletes to have a different healthcare experience and get the care they need for quite some time now. We've hit on how clinicians can set themselves apart, like how they can get started, how to keep the ball rolling, how to be a long-term resource for their clients, and at the same time build the lifetime value for their business, right? So as we wrap up here, we just want to say thank you again for being here and for your contribution to the Performance Rehab Revolution Summit. Do you have any parting words for the listeners?
Parting words. Just stop thinking, start doing.
I love it. And then where can people find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram. Go at Aaron LeBauer. It's with it's Aaron. Aaron LeBauer, you'll see I'm the redheaded guy. I've got a lot of other resources. If you message me the word book, I'll send you a free copy of my book, Cash PT Blueprint. Yeah, that's the best. And you can go Google me and find my websites too, but Instagram's where I'm at most of the time.
Sweet.
Dope.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks again, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. And this is great. I'm looking forward to hearing from some of the other speakers. So this is gonna be awesome.